All right, thank you. Welcome, our viewers. Welcome to the 7th edition of Solution Illuminators. I have here with me an amazing guest, Dr. Latasha Holden. Dr. Latasha Holden is a mother of 6 children. She was homeless at the age of 35. She emerged from homelessness to earn a doctorate in leadership studies. She's a 17 times published author. She was named Georgia Atlanta and National Mother of the Year 2020. She ran for 2017 Atlanta City Council election, and she's a community advocate, bringing awareness to bullying, teen dating violence, and sex trafficking. Please help me welcome Dr. Latasha Holden. Welcome.
Hi, Dr. Tulu. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, and happy 50th birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. That was last month, but happy birthday.
Yes.
It's still less than a month, or exactly a month, thereabout. All right. We're going to start this session by me stating clearly the things that I think we have in common.
Okay.
The first thing I discussed, I discovered that we have in common is that we both lost an election at one point. Mine was at a very lower level during my school days, but you at a very high level. We both have experienced financial hardship related to family at one point. We both have a PhD. We both have love and compassion for humanity. We both have leadership and communication interest. We think leadership and communication is very important. And I discovered while reading your books, right? There are books here. Let me show you your 3 books. 1, 2, 3. While I was reading your book, I discovered that we both had the same type of dad that uses reverse psychology to parent. And we're going to talk about that when we started the conversation. And in our family, friends and family both thought that people like us probably would not make it because of the initial challenges we had when we were growing up. But with things that are happening now, we've been able to change the trajectory of our family's life. And that's part of what your book is all about. The title of the discussion today is Dignity in Defeat. And this is the type of conversation that most people don't have, because everybody likes winning. And if you're winning, you want another person to be on your team. And if somebody's losing, you want to push them away so that they are not around you, so to say. And we're going to be discussing this around 3 main topics. The first topic is leadership, which is part of what you've written your book on, personal development, then parenting, because you have 6 kids to show for it. It's not easy to have 6 kids, to raise six kids. All right. So we're going to start this conversation by asking you, what do you understand as dignity in defeat as a person?
That's a good question. Dignity in defeat. That although in defeat you're still able to hold your head up high. You know, you're still able to adhere to your morals and your ethical standards that you have set for your life. You know, it's easy to shine as a leader when you're on top of the world and seem like you got everything, but can you still have dignity in defeat? If you lose a job, if you go through a divorce, if not that you're a perfect person, but that you still adhere to a certain level of ethics that you set for yourself, you know, your morals and values. So can you still have dignity when defeat shows up? And so that's how I look at it.
Wow, that's really great. So reading through your 3 books, in my opinion, one of the ways you've been able to find dignity in defeat is through education, because you went from somebody who with a GED to having masters and bachelors and PhD in leadership studies. That's big. So my question is, which other tool did you use to find dignity in defeat besides education?
It was the journey itself. When I enrolled in college in 2007, my family and we was homeless, living in a boarded house as squatters. So the dignity came through the journey. Humanly, I wanted to go and hide, run. The humiliation for being a woman at 35, homeless with a GED and basically no work history. The humiliation in that, I had to learn how to still maintain a level of dignity as I was going along through the journey. So the education basically taught me discipline, but the journey taught me how to have dignity no matter where I stood at on this lifeline of mine.
Wow, that's really great. That's why William Otto Ward said, to bear defeat with dignity, to accept criticism with poise, to receive honors with humility, these are the marks of maturity and graciousness. Maturity and graciousness. And that's what we're celebrating today. And that's what people feel when they see you, the maturity, the graciousness. And that's why I said, well, I think I should have a conversation with her. Reading through your story and just having this opportunity to actually hear from you, I think it's a very rare opportunity I'm having. And thank you so much for being here. Now, we want to further talk about defeat and how you talk about healing in your book. You said, I remember I was reading the part of your book that says that be always careful of people that are not yet healed, because people that are hurt can hurt you. So how does that really work with that?
Well, for me, coming from a place of unhealed needs, unmet needs, unhealed trauma, just going through the thing, dropping out of high school, going through that, I saw that when I was unhealed, I attracted unhealed people. And that's just a recipe for disaster. I mean, two unhealed people together, no one knows why they're here on earth. It's just a setup for a toxic relationship to build. And so for me, over the years, as I had got accustomed to being in toxic relationships, didn't know who I was, I personally took the last 8 years out to work on my self-healing and personal development. I'm big on personal development. I believe as a person, you only go as far as you have developed, as you have invested in yourself. And so I think it's definitely, as a leader, we'll always be in our healing moment. We'll always be, but you have to be like a flowing river. You have to be moving in that healing. You can't be like stagnant water. You have to be like a flowing river.
Yes. You mentioned something that I also find very interesting in your book, personal development. That's a place you stated in your book that if somebody is trying to develop professionally and they are not taking care to develop themselves personally, they're actually not doing well with themselves. What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, anybody can be a professional. I mean, a public success. I mean, you're doing well on your job. You're big in corporate America, but your home life is failing. Is a true success is when your home life mirrors your professional life. The wife or the husband, the kids, everybody. Again, this is not that you're a perfect person, but it's that your standard of ethics and your values and morals carries over no matter what setting you're in. It's just not you're shining in one area and you're almost, doomed in another area. Are you the same person all the way around? Can your family that you are close with, that sees you every day, can they vouch for you the same way your coworkers can vouch for you? So a lot of times we have a lot of leaders that are public successes and private failures.
Wow. Success outside, but then failure inside the house. Now, since we're talking about relationships, home, parenting, and now I think now is the best time to talk about your dad and my dad and what I think they have in common. I read in your book that you were trying to apply to be a police officer,
Yes.
and you told your dad, and he tried to talk you out of it. Eventually, you dropped out from the race. Then you told him that, oh, you dropped out of the race. Then he was really discouraged. He was not really happy with that because he was bragging at work that you're going to become a police officer. Then I'll tell you what my dad have in common with that. Growing up, my dad will sometimes say, wow, you guys don't have initiative. Then the next minute, you discover that he expects a lot. And I was like, oh, what do you want? If I don't have initiative, then why do you expect a lot? And sometimes he would get to the extent he would say, well, with you guys, I think I'm just going to be okay when I grow up. When I grow old, I wouldn't be needing support from kids because I'm going to be doing so well. It later turned out that he was actually saying that to motivate us to work hard because he wants to be taken care of. All right. So that's the point that I discovered. Well, that's still the same reverse psychology that is going on there. So can you just say something about that, your experiences with that?
Yeah, and for me, I'm the oldest of three girls, and first of all, my dad is a very fair-skinned man, and I was the darker of the two sisters, so he didn't really like darker people. And I think he took a lot of the insecurities that he had and placed it on me. And that's why I realized when I started having kids that you have to learn your children's personalities. It takes a lot of work. I mean, the more kids you got, the more you're investing in each one. And for me, the reverse psychology for me, I adored my parents, so whatever they said negative or whatever, when they didn't cheer me on, I took it to heart. I took it and it just guided my moves. And so for me, by the time I felt like I was a failure, I couldn't do nothing right to please them, which led me to drop out in 10th grade. I just gave up. I'm like, I'm not good at anything. But I would say if you take the time, like out of my 6 kids, I had to learn which child I have to be a little bit more sensitive with, which child I could be a little bit more forceful with in the way I present something. And for me, I just think he just didn't know who I was as a person. And so that worked against me. That reverse psychology did not help me. But as you see, though, it shows even at a younger age, it still shows that I've always had a servant leadership, police officer, running for office. I've always wanted to do something in servant leadership. So that just shows the thread of how I'm wired.
Wow. That's great. And this is something you clearly express in your book also. There was a quote you said that you cannot love your children the same way. You have to take time to learn their personalities and love them according to who they are. And I have to keep reading that and to make sure I really understand what you mean. I have my understanding of that, but I also want you to share what your understanding is from that.
Of course, you love your kids with the same amount of love. You give your life for all of them, but you love, because it's some you might kind of can, as I said, I think in my book, what you just showed up with the quotes, we love them, but that don't mean we like them all the time. You don't love the people, but they are people. It does not mean you like them all the time. So, but I love my kids, but I had to love them according to who they are. It wasn't a one size fit all, and I had to support each one individually. And to be honest with you, Dr. Tulu, that probably was one of the hardest things, especially when you're in a homeless poverty situation. That took a lot of time and a lot of energy to do that to pour into them separately so they can grow, and they don't have to feel like, okay, I have to be like this brother, I have to be like this sister. I think for me, that's probably why I spent a lot of mental energy to pour into them in that way. And I think it really paid off in the long run. But you can love your kids with all the same love, but I think you love them according to who they are. I hope I'm making sense. It's
Yeah,
yeah, you know, yeah, you
yeah,
love
yeah.
they're
I
individual.
definitely, yeah, I definitely, I understand. I think this is like the Bible. You can have your own interpretation of the Bible.
Yeah.
And that's why when the pastor preach, they always tell you still read the Bible. Although I'm giving you a certain interpretation, but I have parents, I have kids now. I understand the way things are supposed to go. But then there are certain things I think for me the most important thing is to give all the kids a fair chance to become who they ever want to become and give them the support that they need, such that at the end of the day, you're not going to come back and say that, well, it's because I was not loved enough. That's why I take certain decisions that I took. That's so about that does not happen. I think everything is fair. And that's why people say that love is a commandment, but likeness is not.
It's
So
not.
it's not really.
You don't see
Uh,
nowhere in the Bible where it says you gotta like somebody.
yeah, yeah.
But
In that situation, it feels like likeness is stronger than love, which is not always so, but then it appears like way, right? Yeah, and so still talking about love, in your book, you also said, lovers come and go. So be true to yourself. That's the person who will be there forever. That means that lovers will come and go, and we can only be sure to count on the love for ourselves. And I read about your love stories, like which was part of the book that was really interesting, and how you fell in love a couple of times and things like that, and you have 6 kids. So tell us a little bit about your upbringing that made that possible.
make what possible.
I mean, falling in love like so easily, because most people are, yeah, I want to hate. It's a world whereby there's hatred. People will people will prefer to hate even for no reason
Yes.
versus somebody who just want to love. And sometimes when you love like that, people take advantage of it.
Well, definitely for me, but in my younger days, relationships I say in the book, I was loving out of codependency. I wanted people to let me feel better about myself. Tell me who I am, because my parents couldn't tell me I'm great, tell me I'm valuable. And so for me, it wasn't even though I'm a empathetic, very compassionate and loving person, that side of me has been there since I was a kid. But the part of I wasn't good enough from my parents' standpoint, with that, it became codependency. And of course, people took advantage of, because I'm already a natural, loving, kind person, just who I am. But trying to be in a relationship for the simple fact of heal me, love me, show me that was very dangerous. You're gonna always attract sharks when they can see that you're bleeding. And so I attracted sharks because I was bleeding and I got hurt. Left with kids, and that's why I said, personally, for the first time in my life, I took the last 8 years of my life to do a lot of healing, a lot of self-reflection, and working on me. And most of the stuff I've done, run for office, wrote the books, got my degrees, happened in the last 12 years. When I took that time out to focus on me, I was able to see the move of God in my life.
Wow, wow. And my favorite, not my favorite, but the one that got me so interested is the one that you call the person Pastor Charles. I know that's not the name of the real person, but I found out I was not expecting that, but it was a twist for me that I just can't get rid of it from my mind. Then let's talk about your experience when you ran for the city council. Because I know election, a little bit about election. We have a couple of them going back in Nigeria, and we can pretend as if we are not really interested in election or politics because we are a godly person and we don't want to. But whatever they do still affect us anyways. So my own question is, what are the experiences you learn from running for your office that you probably would not have learned if you didn't run for office?
That's a good question. First question I think about interviews. You definitely have to know why you're in that race. For me, I was the underdog in the race. I came out of homelessness, got my degrees, and went into politics. So for me, it showed me what I was really made of. You're going in a whole different arena. It's not a nice game that people play, but I knew that. I remember a quote by Nelson Mandela when he said that how could he enjoy the limited freedom that he had when his sisters and brothers were not free? And for me, God had delivered me from homelessness and poverty with 6 children. I just knew I had to at least go back and fight for others with lack of affordable housing, safer communities. And at that point, I had been through the fire. So if the fear was still there, because I was not connected like the other candidates in the race. I was not someone that was well known and politically affiliated with people, but my heart was a servant leadership. It was servant leadership. And I just believe leadership is the management of hope. And I just decided, hey, I got to go back and at least try to fight. As I liberated my family out of poverty and homelessness, I wanted to go back and at least throw my hat in the ring and try to liberate others.
Yes, and we've learned here from politics that people don't really care about the hearts, so to say. They care about the dollars, the amount of money that you, because I mean, when you see it, when somebody starts saying, well, I want to run for office, the next thing they do is that they're raising money. I wonder.
You know what? I think I dispelled that. I did very well in my race for it to be my first big political run like that. I did very well. It was 8 of us in the race. I actually ran for the seat that Mayor Keisha Bottoms she had occupied as that city council person for that district. She left that seat so she could run for mayor. And it's interesting that when I started to come from a servant leadership point, I started to see a lot of other people in politics take that route. They're talking about from servant leadership and their hard experiences. And so I think people are tired of people politically connected. I think they wanted some real people that could understand their plight. And I think that's one of the reasons I did well in that race.
Wow. Because I was like, usually people stories are very important. Personal stories, you can use that to connect with people on a lot of level. But then it feels like there's still more that is required to be able to achieve success in that arena. Besides just saying, well, I was homeless, and you understand what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, I know you have to be updated on what's going on in that community, and what's going on around you. Of course, I still had to know what was going on. Like I said, I didn't have a campaign manager. I had 5 volunteers that would show up at my house, 5 to 6 volunteers that would show up at my house every Sunday to go over what I'm doing, to uplift me, encourage me. So I didn't have it. I took my last $700 that I had to get into the race. So where everybody else that was around me had the fundraising, had the connections, I did come in with more of a servant leadership, but I did also know what was going on in the community that I was running for city council. So no, it's not just about your story. You still have to have some knowledge of what's going on.
Yeah. What's going on. Yeah. And the interest and everything, which is very important. Yeah. Let's switch gears a little bit. You also said something in your book. You related the experience when you got your PhD.
Mm-hmm.
You got your PhD. Towards the end of your PhD, you ran out of dollars and you were trying to just abandon the PhD. And you said you got a call from Dr. Davis.
Yes.
As to how they can use your experiences to make up for your remaining credits and things like that. How did that happen? Can you tell us?
And at first when he first called me, I was like, I'm gonna be honest. I'm very transparent. I felt like a failure because I'm like, I did not do the dissertation. I did a capstone. And what happened was I was getting a PhD in leadership studies. And so when Dr. Davis called me, I was at the hair salon, and he said, can I speak to Dr. Holden? I was up under the dry. I said, well, I didn't complete the PhD program. I didn't do the dissertation. He said, Dr. Holden. He said, let me ask you a couple of questions before I tell you why I'm calling. He said, Dr. Holden, is it true that you brought a family of 7 out of homelessness and poverty? I said, yes, sir. Is it also true that you have did events in the communities to show leadership and to lead and show your 6 children the principles of servant leadership? I said, yes, sir. He says, also true you're multiple author of multiple books. I said, and he said, also true that you are now running for city council. He said, Dr. Holden, you have exemplified what leadership is. That wasn't a dissertation. You became your own dissertation. And so he said, don't be ashamed. God has favored you. You don't know us. We don't know you, you know, but we've been following your journey, and you will be receiving. And they told me what I had to do for my capstone project. And that's what I did. And so that's how God did that for me, you know. But I remember when the dean of the program called me to his office, he said, I got good news and bad news. He said, the good news is you have PhD credits. You have enough credits. I think I had 230 credits. He said, you have enough credits to do what you are planning to do. He said, but because you've been in school for 10 years, your funds have been depleted, and you won't be able to finish the remaining year off. And I walked out of there with my head down. I said, God, I tried my best. I tried it. And but I knew I still was in the race of city council. I just kept going. And that's when I got the call from Dr. Carlton David, president of G. Moore Theological Institute. And only God can do that, Dr. Tulu. You know, everybody is different. But I think, and I took what Dr. David said, exemplify leadership. You can write a paper, and I'm not knocking anybody who did the actual dissertation, but my project was a capstone project, and I'm just glad God's favored me.
Wow, that's a miracle to me, because I mean, I went through the PhD and funding, and and even to get in for an advisor to say that, well, I want to be with you for the next 6 years of your life. It's a big decision for them, because what if you're just a troublesome person and they're just gonna have to deal with you for the next 6 years of their life? So getting to the PhD itself. And I saw that you said it was a miracle too, because you how your mom read the letter to you over the phone and things like that. I saw that so I also felt that, because when I applied for my own PhD the first time, I was denied, of course. And it was not because of grades. I had good grades, of course. I didn't come here to play. I didn't leave Nigeria to come and play here in the US. But then it was more than that, definitely, because having a PhD means that you're going to be with an advisor for some time. So I also saw that that's something you experience, and thank you for sharing that. Now, there's something that also was very interesting to me in your book. I know you're wondering now, what is he going to say again?
I'm afraid you got a good memory, and it showed me that you have read the book. So that blesses me that you took the time out to do that.
Yeah, so one of the instances you were talking about your interaction with a Christian sister, as they were coming to your house for a fellowship. They got
hold me up.
And you told the sister about a premarital affair, and instead of the sister to encourage you and give you advice on how to do it, they just said, well, we're not going to be doing fellowship at your place anymore. What can you tell us? Maybe there's something that I didn't read from that, because I couldn't understand why.
Okay, so I was about 23 years old. I was not raised in a church, but this particular winter day in Atlanta, probably around October of 1996, I went to the store, and it was, I don't know, something made me turn around and look behind me when I was in line, and I met this nice looking guy. He was with a friend. They was Christians. They just moved from, I think, Detroit to here, and we just started talking. Of course, the physical attraction got my attention, but he really wanted the guy say we can come over to Bible study and introduce we want to talk to you about Jesus. And because I didn't know them, I invited another female friend over, and they was legit. We talked about God. They led me to Christ. And because I was so on fire for God and Jesus, the lady, he's like, well, I want to take you to the church I go to. So you get to know, since you wasn't, get a church home. He introduced me to this lady, and she came up to my house to do Bible study. And she said, whenever you need me, you can call me. If you need help with anything, I'll be there. And I called her one day and I said, hey, I want to be honest. I have been sleeping with my boyfriend, but I want to stop. I want to wait till marriage. Can you please help me? And she just, you're not ready. You're not coming back over to your house. I thought you was ready. I'm like, please help me. I thought you said I can come talk to you. She said, no, you're not ready. Don't ask us. We're not coming back. And at that point, I just knew I was just a messed up person. God didn't love me. I begged that lady. I'm 23 years old on the phone crying, please don't do this. I want to change. I want to be right with God. And that right there, that was probably one of the worst experiences in my Christian journey that happened to me. And I don't know whether she was liking the young guy, the guy that brought me to the church, but she just cut me off, and she didn't want to have anything. And I didn't talk about God. It took, I think, another 7-8 years before I got back into relationship with him.
Wow. That's why, that's why for me, I always advocate personal relationship with God. You should try to go to church and be among fellow believers, but then at the end of the day, you find out that the fellow believers are not perfect too. They have their own demons that they are fighting and things like that. At the end of the day, we all want to make heaven. I don't think there's anything more important than that, really. So thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I also find interesting in your book was when you were talking about opportunities. You said opportunities are never missed. They are passed on to those that are prepared. And we always see that the motto or the very important words from Boy Scout is be prepared. Mm-hmm. And I have a fellow Toastmasters, and at the beginning of the Toastmaster, we always ask, what is the thought of the day? And this person will always say, be prepared every day, every meeting. I sometimes I just want to ask him, why is this so important to you? Be prepared. But then when I saw your quotes, I'm like, now I can make the connection. If this guy keeps saying be prepared, that means that we can actually lose opportunity just because we're not prepared. And it feels like, the opportunity is in the air, but then that's not true. Somebody's actually going to take the opportunity because they were prepared. Do you have any experience with that you want to share?
Yeah, you know what? Before I went to college, God had prepared me the 2 years. He had gave me the thirst for reading. So had it not been for me reading for 2 years, anything I could get my hand on, I don't think I would have been prepared for the level of the schoolwork I had to undergo when I was started college. You could be prepared. Like if you're saying you want to be an actor, or you want to be a writer, or you want to go, whatever your dreams are, if you're not preparing in that off season, when the opportunity comes, you won't be prepared to take the opportunity because you haven't did anything. We can't get prepared when the opportunity presents itself. You have to be prepared before. That means doing the work, doing the reading, working out. You can't just go do a run in a race. You're preparing for the race. I'm not a person that works out. I can't just go tomorrow and start tomorrow. I want to run a Peachtree Road race. It's all about what are you doing in the off season to prepare yourself for the opportunity that you're asking God for.
Wow. This is really big. Preparation is the key.
Yes.
And again, one of the ways that you've prepared and have prepared also, even based on the names, the doctor we have in front of our name, it shows that there's some preparation that came with that. And you said in your book that education will actually taught you how to think, not what to think. Why is that so important? The how and not what?
Because we've been told all our lives what to think by parents, what to do, which way to go. But education taught me how to think, how to form my own ideas, how to research, how to not depend on anybody else, because the answers is always in front of you. You know, the answers are always there. Most importantly, the answers are within. So education taught me how to think and how to go out there and get the answers that I'm looking for. And it gives you freedom. It gives you freedom not to depend on anyone, not to say not to network, I'm saying, but not to sit there waiting for somebody to come with the answers for your life. We got, and that's what it did. It taught me how to go out there and get the answers, how to go out there, and it prepared me. That 10 years in school prepared me to go run for office, to be a leader in the marketplace, to be, and so it just taught me on how to think and not to be led by others' opinions of me, thoughts of me, but how to think about who I am in Christ and what he's called me to do. So it just gave me a way of looking at life and how our life here is here. We're here one minute, we're going the next. So it taught me how to look at life and what I want my legacy to be.
Wow, that's really great. Education is majorly for how to think and not what to think. Of course, that's even what research is all about. If you have a PhD and you have to do research, is basically learning how to think so that when you have a new situation, you know what to apply, you can have the results, so that it's not like the what, because the what can change, but the how, you can always apply the how.
Yes.
In which situation, in whichever situation you find yourself. And that's why one of the thoughts that I've actually find very interesting in your book again is, you said, once we are content with our portion, the universe gives us more. Once we are content with our portion, the universe gives us more. What does that mean?
When you are in a place where you are content with where God has you, when you're in a place where you are content, not that you don't want more, but you're not being driven by the standards of society. When you're content, when I had got to a place in my homeless journey, okay, this is where I'm at. What am I going to do? I was content right there to do what I need to do to get out of that, and I didn't freeze up. So when you are content with whether you're rich or poor, whether you just got laid off or just got promoted, when you're content with that, you allow the universe to give you more, to impart more into your life. And I think for me, that's what happened. The more I became content and not always living in the future and not always being regretful for the past, but I was content in the moment, I allowed the universe to elevate me when the universe said it was time. A lot of times what we try to do, we try to rush God's hand. Nothing happens no faster than God has allowed it for your life. Nothing will happen faster. So for people to try to rush and don't get sleep, they're trying to 3 hours, I got to do this, I got to do that. Yeah. It's going to happen when God time. You better get your rest. Don't let this world tell you, these motivation speakers, if you want it, you got to get 3 hours of sleep. Believe me, God knows how to elevate you when the time is right.
That's true. Now, you see people that sleep 1 hour in 24 hours. Because they want to achieve more.
Have you about to kill yourself out here trying to beat the grind, be out here. And it's not saying don't be disciplined in what you're going after, but also do everything in moderation. There's a balance between, and that's why I learned there was no way I can go from being homeless to run for city council, writing books, get my degrees, had I not been content. Because when you're not content, you're always trying to, you come out of that energy and just, you can't enjoy the moment. And before we know it, life been pass us by and we forgot to enjoy the moment and all the little lessons God is teaching you in between.
Yes, that's very important. Enjoying the moment, very important. The first thing I want to connect with that is the fact that one of the ways the universe has given you more is you becoming the Georgia Atlanta Model of the Year and also National Model of the Year in 2020. What is the journey? How did this happen?
Well, American Mothers Inc. is a national organization. they get nominations from people all around the world for their individual states. And then they'll choose the person to represent the state. But out of the 50 plus states, they would then go on and choose one person to become National Mother of the Year. When I got that call, for me, the humiliation of being home with 6 kids, I couldn't do vacation. I couldn't get kids Christmas gifts, birthday gifts. I just did the best I could with the little that I had. So when God blessed me with that just, only God can do that, Dr. Only God can take a former homeless mother and award her as Georgia. He said, daughter, I'm gonna do something even better for you. Not only are you Georgia Mother of the Year, I'm going to award you with National Mother of the Year. And when I got the national title, I was the 85th woman in United States history to ever hold that national title. And only God can do that. I mean, that's why I have to give him all the glory. I didn't know anyone, but that's just the favor of God. And that just shows you that God will reward you for your faithfulness.
Wow. Reward from God. And this I can relate to because I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, and I understand that people that don't believe that way. So my question is, how do you explain this to the people who don't believe in God? How do you explain what you've been able to achieve? Because it's easy to say, well, it's God. Then I understand that as a person. But for people who don't believe in God, how would you explain it to them that it's not just hard work that brought you this far?
When you sit with reality, and whoever's watching, that just be real. We're just going to take a couple of seconds to be real here. Statistically, a 35-year-old woman in a major city, homeless with 6 children, with a GED and no work history. Statistically, the odds were against us. I didn't have any money. I didn't have any family support, and I was not connected to anyone that was influential that can help me get to the next level. I would be crazy to think that my human mind, some kind of way, just magically transformed my life. Now, I will say this, although God has the power to do whatever he wants to anybody's life overnight, 9 times out of 10, it don't work that way. We have to be a willing participant in our own deliverance. Now, when I was homeless and I was living in that board-up house, I could have kept crying, God, help me, and I never did any physical work. But when I took a step and enrolled in college, God took a step toward, and it just started to unfold. So whoever's watching, whether you have another higher power, for me, is God, is Jesus. I'm a Christian. They my guys. I'm with them until they call me home. For me, there was no way I could have done that on my own. I did not have the money. I just didn't. And he kept my mind a couple times when I wanted to give up. And so if you don't believe it, I don't know what all thing I know is he's no respecter of persons. If he did it for me, he would do it for you. I just want you to know nothing happens overnight. That's where the struggle comes in this journey. When God don't do what we think he want to do, or whoever you consider your higher power, when it's not done immediately, you give up, you go back to your old ways. But it's in the pushing. It's in the keep going. It's even if you're crying and you feel like I thought God was trying to kill me. I mean, he wouldn't help me. He was helping me by not allowing me to figure life out, allowing me to get the muscles wrong, learn how to stand. How can you go and fight for somebody else and you ain't standing for you and your family? How can I go say I want to go be a political candidate and I don't know how to stand in adversity for my family? Yeah. So everywhere he's leading you, whatever he has promised for your life, your test might be different, but I guarantee you it's part of the journey to when he's ready to elevate you.
Wow. That's really good. So we move towards what we want. That's a power in the universe that brings what we want closer to us, but we have to take a step. Take a step And taking a step could mean so many things. It could mean believing in God, believing in Jesus, it could mean working harder, it could mean just making sure whatever you write down, you're taking action. And as you move, the path just gets clearer.
Yeah.
As you move. It becomes clearer and clearer as you go. One of the things that I found very interesting from your experiences and the things that you've achieved is the fact that you've written 17 books in about 12 years. Is that true? Or thereabout?
Well, in 5 years.
In 5 years, what strategy did you use to achieve that?
Well, one thing homelessness taught me how to be disciplined. I believe the world belongs to those who are disciplined. And so being a humanitarian, I used every experience I could and the lessons I taught my 6 children, and I put it in book form to go, to touch other people. So I have my personal life story. You had the book, the leadership book, personal quotes, parenting guide. I have 6 children books. The youth series that you were talking about with sex trafficking. I use every experience from my advocacy, motherhood, leadership, and I pour it into books. So the same lessons that I led my family out of homelessness and poverty with, I want to reach other mothers and fathers and teens and kids. I'm just using my gift to pour back. And one of the ways to come through is through writing for me.
Wow, that's really good. Writing, because it's very important to write our experiences down. Because experiences that are not written down, and probably nobody will learn from. For example, all this thing that we're talking about today, if you didn't write it down, I probably wouldn't know about it. I probably would not meet you. What are the odds that I'll meet you?
Yes.
I'll meet you in person like this. So thank you for writing it down. I think it takes a little bit of vulnerability, being vulnerable, being able to expose yourself to judgment to be able to write a book. Because every other person walks around as if they are perfect and their life is perfect. They've done everything perfectly. They're all this mighty person that people should adore. They are next to God, or even better than God in some situation. That's the way people present themselves, and we all know that's not true, right? There's always something that somebody can learn from your story. Still talking about your story is very important. You mentioned in your book your anchors. And my own question is how these anchors that you discovered about yourself, how did they become so important to shaping who you are as a person now?
Well, the thing that Dr. Tulu is referring to, that I had uncles who believed in me at an early age. They knew I was going to be someone. I was going to make a life. My dream was to become a lawyer or a writer. I used to write poetry at a young age, but they used to always come over and sit and talk. And I used to be so excited to have these dialogues with them when I was 12 and 13. We're talking about life and me becoming a lawyer. But what happened was, because my dad insecurities and his low self-esteem, when they would leave, he would come to me crying, "Oh, you like them more than you like," and I'm a little kid. I'm like, no, Dad, what are you talking about? I love you, but I do like talking with them. And what it did, it shaped my mind that something was wrong with intellectual guys. Something was wrong with guys who were smart. And I ended up dating the guys who, like my dad, who had low self-esteem, insecurities, that was mentally and verbally abusive. I end up unconsciously attracting guys like my dad. And when I look back, I'm like, wow. That's what, because I was kind of made to feel bad for liking somebody who was not like him. And so for me, that's what kind of shaped my mind. That's how I dropped out of school in the 10th grade. That's how I got off track and I didn't know who I was. That kind of messed me up. But yeah, so I was never sexually abused. I was never physically abused. It was the mental games that was played with me that kind of got me off track, because it happened so early on, between that 12 and 14 years. And I just went whatever my parents said. And it took me a minute to get back on track, but it was a fight. Because when you're 35, your mindset is already programmed for the most part You know what I'm saying? It was already
Yeah.
30.
Yeah.
You're fully grown. So my mindset was already poverty mindset. I'm nobody. I'm worthless. I don't have that. So for me to overcome the mindset was probably just as hard as being homeless.
Wow. That's really, that's deep. That's deep. Thank you for sharing that. One of the things that I'm going to quote from your book is you said also that personal development is often overlooked and gifts and talents are often overrated. And what's this quote about?
Well, I mean, your gifts and talents. You might be a wonderful singer. That's your gift. But you treat people like crap. That's your personal development. That's who you are. That's your character.
Mm,
So you might be an awesome singer, and then the people who work for you on stage or whoever works with you can come back and say, "Oh, they're very nasty though. They're mean and they say mean stuff to you. They never apologize." That's who you are. That's your person. That means you haven't invested in your personal development. Took the time out to check yourself on your character, on your integrity, because you're feeling your star and your gifts and talents is going to shine, and everybody should bow down to you. But I
mm,
can guarantee you this: when your time is up and the funeral is over, the people are going to really say what they thought about you.
wow.
Can your integrity stand up at the end of your journey? Will they lie at your funeral and tell the truth when it's over? Or they're gonna say that person was a good person, they never hurt nobody, they always try to be kind and they mean it. And so that's what it's about. Will your integrity and your character outlast you when your time here is gone?
Wow. Wow. Because what people will say about us when we are gone is what probably is going to stay longer, because a lot of people are around now, probably not just really stating how they feel, but then when you actually turn your back, that's when people actually say who you really are. And turning back is two ways. It could be that you're just not there physically. You're
Yeah.
another place, and your friends will say certain things about you they can't say in your presence, or when people actually die. And
Mhm.
those are the things that it's very important to think about. That's very clear as to what you were trying to talk about there.
Let me add
Then,
one thing to that, Dr. Tulu. You got to
right.
think when your time here is up, they're not going to talk about how big your house was, how
Hmm.
fancy your car, and how good you dressed. People are going to remember how you treated them.
Yeah.
That's that person development. And I do weekly check-ins. Did I did something better? Did I say something to someone? I need to go back and apologize. That's when you know you're doing personal development. This is my thing. The longer it takes for you to apologize to someone, because we know when one did something or said something wrong to somebody, the longer it takes for you to apologize or to be convicted that you've done something wrong, it's a warning sign of how far you drifted away from the Holy Spirit. As a Christian, if you're truly a disciple of Jesus Christ, when you're convicted, if you're really trying to have a daily walk, you're usually immediately convicted and you want to go and rectify the situation. But if it takes you months and years, that's a warning sign that you're drifting apart from your relationship with God.
Wow, wow, wow. I think that's also still in line with the fact that even in the Bible it says that we should get angry, but not don't get angry for too long. Basically,
Yeah.
that's where don't get angry for years. That's what you're saying, basically.
Yeah,
Right.
or when you're in the wrong, go apologize, and that just shows I've done it. I've went if I did something or someone pushed me to where I felt provoked, and I said I would tell my kids. I apologize to my kid. I was wrong. I'm responsible for my action. Then I would go apologize, and I believe that's what kids have to see. Kids have to see us model the walk and not just talk the talk.
Wow, it's very important we actually follow what we say in a very informative way, so that we can live a good life. That's very good. So we're trying to wrap up here now. What would you like to say to our audience in terms of leadership, parenting, and personal development? What's your message to our audience?
Well, first of all, as parents, I want to say your kids are watching. They can care less what you're saying. They're watching to see the direction that you're telling them to go into, or you're a person that's going to walk that same walk. And so that's very important what you do. Not that you're perfect. Leadership parents is not that you're perfect, but you're someone that's going to demonstrate a certain lifestyle to the best of your ability. And that's what leadership is. Leadership is basically you are the person that you're saying off social media. You're not living a social media life and you're someone totally different. You're not living a church life as a pastor and you're someone. Are you the same person no matter who you come in contact with? It's often said that you can often tell a lot about the person by the casualties they leave behind. So if you're somebody that in your past, you have a list of people that you've hurt, something is wrong. My thing is, whether whoever come into your life or whoever you accept into your space, your goal as a leader should always leave that person better than you found them. And that's one of the things. If you cannot add to someone's life, don't bring misery to it.
And just leave them alone. I believe in that alone. Yeah, if I cannot help you at your level, you have things going on, just leave you alone.
Yes.
And you figure it out. I pray for you. God will help you whatever you have going on. I believe in that too. I think every generation should bring an improvement in previous generation. And when you meet people also, you're having a conversation with them, you always try to help and support. If you can't do that, just leave them and let them be.
Yeah.
So you just been so awesome today, helping us to really understand leadership, parenting, and so many other things you mentioned today. And I hope our viewers learned something from this discussion we had. Is there any last word you want to say to our audience before we close?
Yes. Well, I'm offering a scholarship. My first scholarship as Georgia National Mother of the Year is called Keep the Hope Alive. So if the scholarship is awarded to a single parent that is a college student or in a trade school. And I did this scholarship because when I was homeless, before the semester start, people need stuff, gas money, especially if you're in a homeless situation. So the qualifications is you have to show proof that you're homeless, you have to be a single parent, and you have to write a one-page essay on how you're keeping the hope alive. The scholarship is $250 for your personal use. I also have my first sponsor. They're going to provide a mini makeover if you're a female and a professional headshot. So you have some professional pictures for your resume, social media, your LinkedIn account. And the deadline is August 1st and the winner will be announced August 15th. So you can reach me by my email with your essay and Latarsha Holden, LATARSHA Holden, HOLDEN at yahoo.com. Keep the hope alive. I would love to hear from you. And you have to be an Atlanta resident for the facial and the photo shoot, but you can live in the States to get the $250 scholarship.
Yes. And before we close, I want to show you your books again. This is the first, No Longer Lost. I read this. I recommend it for people to read. It's here. You can see the second, Leadership Principles. This is something I actually read, was good. Then the first 50 years. This is also very good. And you have other books because you are the author to 17 books. That's a lot of books. So please support my guest. If you want to know more about her and her journey, you can buy any of her 17 books. Most of them are on Amazon. So you can actually type her name on Amazon and most of the books. And you also wrote a comic book, right? Children's book.
Yes. I came out with a comic book in 2020 when we first went on lockdown. I wanted to create a way to encourage the people. So you can reach out to me. That's not on Amazon. That's like a special edition collection that I have. But it was pretty cool creating my first comic book.
All right. Thank you so much. Please support my guest as much as you can. Thank you for being here. I know people like you probably don't have time to talk to people like me, but I really appreciate.
Well, I appreciate you, Dr. Tulu.
Thank you so much, Dr. Latasha Holden, for being a guest, and I wish to talk to you once again. And thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate that. Yeah.